Good morning, friends. Welcome to our YouTube channel, Sir Abdul Sattar Khan. 11th English 2.1, The Cherry Tree. Brainstorming activities, question answer. State Board 2.1, The Cherry Tree. Question answer देखेंगे. Question number 1 है find proof for the poem from the following. The poet has the poet has mentioned different seasons. B. The poet's minute observations of the steady growth of the cherry tree. C. The color imagery in the poem. D. The struggle of the cherry tree for survival. पहले का आंसर है फर्स्ट एंड सडनली डेट समर नियर द एंड ऑफ द मे. सेकेंड एंड अ मानसून ब्लाइट्स. थर्ड नेक्स्ट स्प्रिंग द प्लांट्स फर्दर ग्रोथ. सेकेंड का आंसर है उसका पहला है इट वॉज वेरी स्मॉल 5 months ओल्ड चाइल्ड. सेकेंड इन द नेक्स्ट स्प्रिंग आई वॉच 3 new shoots ग्रो. थर्ड का आंसर है द कलर इमेजरी. फर्स्ट है मेड अ मिराकल फ्रॉम ग्रीन ग्रोइंग पेन. सेकेंड poet refers to the cherry tree as dark. Third, he describes the blossoms as pink. Fourth, the sky has been described as blue. The use of different colors to describe the different elements in the extract proves the use of color imagery. Fourth है the struggle of the cherry tree. The pink blossoms that grew on the cherry tree were fragile and seemed like they would fall at the lightest breath or the slightest breeze. However, the blossoms don't fall off. In fact, they even provide nectar to the bees. Second, I state whether the following statements are true or false and correct the false statements. The cherry tree did not take long to grow. B. Birds and insects were benefited from the tree. C. The poet was exalted at the sight of the cherry tree. D. The poem has an underlying message about the importance of trees. E. The poet repents planting the cherry tree. फर्स्ट का आंसर है ट्रू. सेकंड का आंसर है फॉल्स. इसका करेक्ट आंसर है द पोएट वॉज एक्सटैटिक एट द साइट ऑफ चेरी ट्री. थर्ड का आंसर है ट्रू. फोर्थ का आंसर है फॉल्स. द पोएट इज हैप्पी प्लांटिंग द चेरी ट्री. फिफ्थ का आंसर है ट्रू. A2 discuss in groups reasons, consequences, effects. The life of the cherry tree was threatened. B. The cherry blossomed. इसका आंसर है पहले का आंसर है poet planted a cherry tree and forgot about it. The life of the cherry tree was threatened by the goats, the grass cutters, scythe, and the fungal diseases during monsoon. Its leaves were eaten, it split up, and its slender stem shriveled up. The little plant almost died. The cherry blossomed. The cherry blossomed in due time and also because of rain. It grew into a big tree with flowers and fruits and filled the poet with joy. The tree attracted and became a home for the birds and insects. Second, a small thought put in action led to great achievement. Pick out the lines from the beginning and end of the poem and explain their significance. At the end of the poem, poet says, "Yes, I praised night and stars and trees. That small the cherry grown by me." Last lines of the poem highlights the feeling of the pride that the poet experiences because of his small act of planting the seed. All those years ago, his joy known no bounds. When he looks at the outcome of his action, his cherry tree in the full bloom. Similarly, we should take responsibility for our thoughts, actions, and their outcomes in our lives. The cherry tree has inspired the poet to compose the poem. Such poems describing nature or aspects of nature are called nature poems. Find out some expressions from the poem that bring out the elements of beauty of nature. इसका आंसर है expressions in the poem that bring out the elements of beauty of nature are as follows. First, in the grass. Second, at summer near the end of May. Third, I found a tree. Fourth, tall grass running wild. Fifth, ate the leaves. Sixth, slender stem. Seventh, sleepiest breeze. Eighth, blue sky. Ninth, dappled green. 10th, singing crickets. 11th, on the grass. 12th, a berry. 13th, my own dark cherry, etc. A4 की एक्टिविटी है रीड द लाइन पिंक फ्रेजाइल क्विक टू फॉल. नोटिस द अरेंजमेंट ऑफ द वर्ड्स इन द लाइन. दे मूव फ्रॉम हेल्दी टू डेलिकेट. This figure of speech is called climax, where successive words, phrases, sentences are arranged in ascending order of importance. Here the cherry blossom turns pink, ripens, and it's ready to be picked. Find out the examples from the poem: alliteration, antithesis, and personification. Alliteration: since I placed my cherry seed in the grass and watered it once and went to bed. Third, and suddenly that summer near the end of May. Fourth, shriveled the slender, even so. Second है antithesis. It was very small, 5 months child, lost in the tall grass. Third है C है personification. I found a tree had come to stay. Second, but cherries have a way of growing. Third, lost in the tall grass running wild. Fourth, young trees struggle upward thrust. Fifth, very small, 5 months child. A5 Cherry Tree is a narrative poem. Features that make it a narrative poem are given below. Justify them with proper examples. A. The poem has a beginning, a middle, and an end. B. Different places are mentioned. C. Characters are referred to. D. Incidents are arranged in a sequence. E. There is a dialogue between the poet and the reader on the characters of the poem. F. It is a time-bound poem. First answer of the poem begins with the planting of a cherry seed by the poet. He then talks about the growth of the seed into a full-grown tree. At the end of the poem ends on a happy note with the tree in full bloom and the poet being glad about it. Second, different places are mentioned. Poet speaks about his home and going to Kashmir and return from Kashmir. 3. Characters are referred to. इसका आंसर है द चेरी ट्री, पोएट हिमसेल्फ, ग्रास कटर, नेचुरल क्रिएचर्स, एनिमल्स, बर्ड्स, इंसेक्ट्स हैव बीन मेंशन्ड. Fourth, incidents are arranged in sequence. All the incidents are arranged in sequence: planting a seed, a small plant, a 5 months child, 3 shoots, growing upward, full grown tree with blossoms and fruit. Clearly refers sequence. Fifth है poet tells us about the cherry tree, about planting a seed, its development and survival, and finally it succeeded in becoming the tree of dreams. Sixth है the words 8 years next year makes it evident that the poem is time bound. Poem begins with the recollection of memories, seed, plant, struggle for survival, its growth, and at the end of the poem, poet lies under his own tree. Clearly shows that poem is time bound. Compose 8 to 10 lines, narrate an incident in your life without using any rhyming pattern. When I was child, went to the forest. It was dark and green with silence. Birds were singing the songs of happiness. Water of river was following in her wheel. Nature is the man's best friend. I think it covers more than anyone on the earth. It covers us, feeds us, and sustains us. We should respect and care the nature. Write an appreciation of the poem considering the following points about the poem, poet, and title. Theme, summary, gist of the poem, poetic style, language, poetic devices used in the poem, special features, novelties, focusing elements. First point है the poem Cherry Tree is written by Ruskin Bond. Poem itself suggests that it is pertaining to a cherry tree. It is a nature poem as it has elements of nature in it. Second का आंसर है the poem vividly describes planting of cherry tree. A seed was planted by the poet and how against all odds the little plant continues to grow. The poem highlights the struggle and willpower of plant to survive. The plant finally transforms into a 6 feet high tree with flowers on it. Poet is overjoyed when he sees it. He glorifies on little ripened cherry hanging from the tree's branches. He is in awe of the beauty and wonder of nature. He refers all natural elements in this poem. Third, language is simple. Alliteration, personification, antithesis have been used in this poem. Poet used vivid imagery in the process of growing seed. Poet used natural elements to show wonders of nature. Sky, trees, birds, insects all makes poem beautiful. Special features: the cherry tree is a nature poem. A poem of hope describes even little effort can give us joy and happiness of life. Poem tells us importance of nature. Fifth message: this is a nature poem and describes the beauty of nature. It values the importance of nature and tells us that we should take care. We should take care of nature and tells us that we should take care of the uh, take care of nature, as nature gives us eminent joy and pleasure. It also teaches us to make efforts and it will give us happiness in future. Sixth, your opinion. Enjoyable poem takes us amidst of the nature. Nature always gives us happiness. Colorful and vivid description of nature makes us happy. Write a summary of the poem using the following points: title, introductory paragraph about the poem, type, nature, tone, main body, the central idea, gist of the poem, conclusion, opinion, views, appeal. Title of the poem: the poem Cherry Tree is a nature poem by Ruskin Bond, the poem of hope and optimism. It focuses growing aspect of nature, how cherry plant struggles to survive and finally becomes a tree of 6 feet height. Second, introductory paragraph. The poem is narrative. It is a nature poem and describes how the tree came into existence and poetic pure joy over cherry tree. He describes the season that the tree lives through to eventually grow and bloom. In spite of all struggles, plants survive to grow. Main body, central idea. Poem starts when poet recalls that 8 years before he placed a seed in the garden but forget to care of it. In spite of all odds and struggles, plant started to grow. Meanwhile, poet leaves for Kashmir to stay there for a while. When he returns to, he considers himself rich because now he has a full-grown cherry tree by his house. He notices a berry hanging from one of its branches, like a jewel shining in the sun, and feels ecstatic. A year passes by, and the poet watches the tree in full bloom. Conclusion: poem gives us a message that plant trees and reap joy from them. It also highlights the importance of trees in our surroundings. It is quite appealing poem. It tells us importance of hard work. Write the poem Cherry Tree in the form of a story. Write in 100 words that the cherry tree in the poem symbolizes. Third, you have studied the lesson The Call of the Soil from Prose 1.3. Compare cherry tree with the call of the soil and find out the elements of joy of nurturing for the author and the poet. Project work: विजिट द लाइब्रेरी, ये खुद से करना है. Write the poem Cherry Tree in Story. One day, 8 years ago, poet decided to have a tree of his own. He planted a cherry seed and forget about it as he was unaware about it. The seed didn't cared by him. During the May, when the little plant showed up, it was just 5 months old. The goat ate away its little leaves. Fungal disease dried up its slender stem, and even the man made grass cutter split it. The poor little plant didn't lose the hope and stood strong. During spring, it finally reached up for the sun and light, its small arms stretched in the air. Poet saw it and his happiness knew no bounds, but he knew that he had waited patiently for the growth of the cherry tree. Writer spent some time in Kashmir. When he returned from the Kashmir, he was thinner, poor in health, but when he saw cherry tree, he became very happy. He noticed a small ripened berry that hung from the branches. Next year, there were beautiful cherry blossoms, pink flowers on the branches. They were delicate and fell down with the slightest breeze. But the sight was very beautiful. The writer lay down in its shade or morning and kept gazing for long. He could see the blue sky in between green trees. Green trees. He watched the birds, bees buzzing. The day turned into night, with the writer enjoying the wonder of nature around him. The momots and the crickets joined the company under the starry night sky. Symbolization of that poem of cherry tree. Cherry tree symbolizes different things in the poem. It symbolizes human life with lots of struggle and hard work. It symbolizes slow beginning of ambition. It symbolizes hardships that one has to face and overcome in order to live a life. Determination, not losing hope, are the other things cherry tree symbolizes. Never give in fear failure and believe in your ability and keep trying. Confidence returns and hope revives. We should take lessons from cherry tree. Comparison between the call of the soil from 1.3 prose and cherry tree. Both prose and poetry share the love for nature. In prose, farming love is shown more pleasurable, and poetry, poet finds a pleasure in planting a tree. Both Venkat Iyer and Ruskin Bond find joy in nurturing. Iyer is bent on using traditional method to grow his desi crops in order to nurture the soil and bring a balance in nature, while Ruskin Bond spends 8 years of his life in nurturing and lovingly grown a cherry tree by his house. उम्मीद है आपको हमारा वीडियो पसंद आया होगा। अगले वीडियो में दोबारा मुलाकात होगी। खुदा हाफिज़।